Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about the Colorado Cannibal.
That's right, Johnny, the Colorado Cannibal, our first Wild West episode, because I know you were interested to know if the Wild West was really that violent or not. So
How wild was the Wild West?
Well,
was it just a bunch of old folks sitting in their country cabins, farming away?
Like any modern day, it depends on where you are and what was going on. And like per capita, it really wasn't as bad as we lead on to believe. But this particular story, Johnny,
we're delving into the wild part of the Wild West.
This is very much a wild part of the Wild West. So that's why I'm wearing my one of my Western outfits here. This is my 1870s get up post Civil War here.
Looks good. I see you got both your 6-shooters there.
Yeah, these are my Colt open tops, so period correct.
Not matching, but I suppose that's okay.
Well, they are. This was the earlier model, and that's the later model. Not that it matters too much at home for people who aren't watching on the YouTube, but it is an 1871 and an 1872 Colt open tops. So,
okay.
What our boy would have actually probably been carrying himself. So, and then of course above me, I've got my Henry repeating rifle. So, again,
everything period correct,
period appropriate. Minus my beer, that is not. That is not so much period correct or appropriate.
I'm wearing my period correct "Don't Panic" T-shirt from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It happens. So you might be wondering who the hell is the Colorado Cannibal? Well, his real name was Alferd Packer, and he was born January 21st, 1842. Johnny. Alferd, not Alfred, but I'm pretty sure he was actually probably born Alfred, but he just couldn't pronounce his name right because of all the human flesh in his teeth. So, or whatever. I'm sure you're going to get a couple of diseases if you eat some human flesh.
It's not really made for consumption, I don't think.
Yeah, well, at least not human consumption.
It's other white meat, I suppose.
The other white meat, yeah. He was an American prospector. Ish. He was a self-proclaimed professional wilderness guide. Ish. Self-proclaimed is the key word there.
Yeah, self-proclaimed anything. Usually you're not that thing.
You're not that. He was from Pennsylvania, and he was a self-admitted cannibal. And fun fact, and I learned this from doing the research here, cannibalism, even today, Johnny, is not directly illegal in any state in the United States. Not directly illegal. Now, to be able to get the meat to consume is another story. But
good luck
eating.
They don't have to make it illegal because you can't legally get human flesh for consumption.
No, but it itself, like you will not get. Damn it, Johnny, you're not going to get convicted and go to jail for eating the human flesh. You will get convicted for like the desecration of a body or improper burial or some other bullshit statute, but not for eating it itself.
Well, and most likely for the murder of the person before you decided to eat them.
Well, maybe they died of natural causes, Johnny. There's some speculation that we'll get to in this story here, Johnny.
I feel like if they died of natural causes, you don't want to be eating them. It's like eating an animal that died from getting sick. Like you don't want to eat that meat.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I'm not a cannibal, so.
Or it could have like died of old age. So then it was like old, like it'd be like mutton. You'd have to put it in like a mutton stew, like the old sheep or whatever. Anyways, we're already 5 minutes in and way the hell off topic, Johnny. Alferd, he was born in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, and he was one of 3 children. In the early 1850s, his father James Packer moved the family to LaGrange County, Indiana. Woo woo! Indiana story.
Indiana
tie. Yeah.
I imagine he just kind of passed through on his way out west.
I know they actually set up. They lived in LaGrange County, which is right there by South Bend. A little bit farther away from South Bend, and they lived there for quite a little bit of time. They opened up a cabinet maker shop, and he apprenticed at his father's cabinet maker shop. But like young kids are, they don't want to do what their dad does, and there's always a little bit of fighting between father and son, and I don't want to be a cabinet maker. So Alferd said, screw you, Pops, and he moved to Minnesota, and he opened up a shoe shop. So
That'll show him.
great. And right off the bat, you might be sitting there thinking he's a self-proclaimed wilderness guide, right? And his first two jobs are cabinet maker and shoemaker, which
Yeah.
are the most wildernessy things I can think of to do.
I mean, you got to wear shoes to go out in the wilderness, Tom. So
Yeah, well, we'll get there, Johnny. He did, by the time of the Civil War, he did enlist himself into the Union Army on April 20. Yeah.
So he's a good guy.
Yep. So on April 22nd, 1862, he enlisted at Winona, Minnesota, and he was a part of the 16th U.S. Infantry Regiment, Company F. But Johnny, his military career was pretty short because 8 months later, he was honorably discharged because the guy had a lot of seizures.
Oh.
So he wasn't really useful. They'd be in the middle of a march. His ass would fall out of line, seizing. They're like, look, we've had it after a couple of weeks of that. We're like,
yeah, at this point, you're dead weight that we have.
Yeah.
You're another thing that we have to worry about other than the war.
So turn this shit around. He is discharged. He does wind up re-enlisting on June 25th, 1863 with the 8th Iowa Cavalry Regiment, Company C. But he would also be discharged for the same reason on April 22nd, 1864. So
did he just think maybe the seizures were like location related? Like, maybe if I go to Iowa, they'll let me.
But I also love it because like this shows the desperation of the Civil War, like the Union Army, like we need bodies, so we'll take anybody. And then of course this is pre-internet, so it's like
I was gonna say
we're not even fact checking whether you've been discharged or not.
Yeah, their record systems probably weren't the same as they are today.
Word the greatest. No, they aren't. And so I've actually, random 2-second sidebar. I've actually done a lot of like, there's this 54th Massachusetts, like black regiments. They're finding a lot of their enlistment records. And so like there's this big thing online where you can go and help translate these enlistment records so that they can get online. And I will tell you, the handwriting from half of these guys, like good luck figuring out what the hell their names are, what companies they, even something as simple as Company F. How can you make that in handwriting so you can't even know what Company F is? Dear God, I mean, it's a pain in the ass.
I mean, that probably lends a little bit of itself to the fact that literate people were hard to come by, and
few and far in between.
Writing wasn't exactly harped on as something super important.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. His seizures were so bad that it was reported that every 2 days in the cavalry, he would have one. Again, I'm surprised they held on to him as long as they did before they finally we're done. Get out of here.
I'm surprised they didn't send him to like a hospital. Like, hey, buddy, there's something clearly wrong with you. Maybe instead of joining the army, you should go get that looked at and checked out. But I guess what are they going to do to him? For him at that point.
Back in this day, maybe I don't know.
Give him some cocaine and like
cocaine. They probably would take do a lobotomy thing and just jam a spike into his frontal lobe and be like, "That'll help. He's not seizing anymore."
I suppose moving to Iowa and trying again is the better option at that point.
Probably was, yeah. After his second discharge, he finally called it quit, and then he started wandering aimlessly out west. And the guy would get lost constantly. I mean, constantly.
But
he could,
as a self-proclaimed wilderness guide, he didn't die.
He did. That's true. This guy did. He is a lucky survivor.
More of a survivalist guide, I suppose, than a wilderness
would
guide.
Be probably a little bit
he's
better.
Getting lost all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. He could never hold a job for more than a few months, and many of this was because everybody who had employed him reported that he'd had seizures constantly and was a hindrance to the workforce, and he was just a flat-out asshole and lazy and just not inept to do. Like he was just inept. Like he couldn't.
He's not your
anything.
Model employee.
No, not a model employee. He would hold jobs such as a ranch hand, wagon teamster, hunter, field worker, etc. So some of those odd jobs that wanderers would tend to get at this time. And he would try his hand at being a guide, Johnny. But those who knew him were like, yeah, don't actually use him. He can't, he doesn't even know which way north is with a compass. So
yeah,
let's get rid of this guy. His seizures, like I said, and bad attitude kept him from any real meaningful employment. In the 1870s, he wound up basically becoming a miner, going from town to town to town to town, which is how he winds up through Colorado and then into Utah, just going from mine to mine until they got sick of him and booted him out. And again, being a miner with seizures, I'm sure is super helpful.
Yeah, seizing out when you're down in the mines and having to have somebody else, help you up or help you out. I'm sure that made him everybody's favorite coworker.
Everybody's favorite coworker. And this leads us up to our faithful expedition here, Johnny. So in November 1873, there were 20 men that left from Bingham Canyon Mines near Salt Lake City, Utah. They were in search of the gold fields of Breckenridge, Colorado. So basically in Utah, there's these guys that hear that there's a huge gold rush in Colorado. We got to go. There's gold in them darn hills, Johnny. We got to go.
Yeah.
So they decide in November
Perfect
to
timing.
take a 450-mile hike through the mountains in November.
I hear Colorado's beautiful in the winter.
It is. It's just not quite so friendly to transport, you know. These 20 men, all strangers to each other, were rallied by a leader of the group, Bob McGrew, who told the local townsfolk recently of the gold discovery and said, we're all going to be rich. And so they all, like, join in on this idea that they're all going to be rich.
Because of
And
course
gotta
they
get
are
there
all going to
fast.
be rich.
They got to get there fast, Johnny, because other people are going there too. We
Well,
gotta
if
get there
they
early.
if they're not getting,
Make our
somebody's
claim.
getting rich. They know that, and if it's not going to be them, it's going to be somebody else. So you leave in November to head up through the Rocky Mountains and find your gold. How hard can it be? You have a wilderness,
right?
you have a wilderness expert guide with you.
Well, not yet, Johnny.
Proclaimed.
He's not there yet. He's not there yet.
He hasn't proclaimed that yet. He's not with his group yet.
Yeah, he has not left
Gotcha.
with this group yet. No. Of these 20 men, absolutely zero of them have any real wilderness experience. None of them have any real mapping experience. None of them have any real like guide experience. They're just gonna hope for the best here.
Yeah, to be fair, that when you're trying to get a group of people to march up to Colorado with you in the winter, chances are the people who are going to agree to that are not people who have any idea what they're doing.
Yeah, because most of the people who are like, "Oh, you want to go to Colorado? Yeah, sure. We'll wait till spring. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to go now?
You want to leave in,
Have you looked outside the window
you don't want to leave in like April or May, maybe.
when the shit's kind of thawing out a little bit? No? All right, okay. I'll sit this one out. One member, George Tracy, claimed that they came across Alferd about 25 miles from their starting point. So they leave Utah. About 25 miles later, they find Alferd.
And he is just roaming around in the.
Alferd is, he's
out and
working from the
about?
mines or whatever, and he's at a mining town that they happen to pass through.
Okay. So he's not just lost in the woods trying to.
No, he's
get
not.
his-
He's not lost at
his
this point yet.
wilderness guide certification.
No, he is in a local saloon, just hanging out, doing his Alferd thing. When for whatever reason, and this is another thing, if you hear of a gold rush, and you're on your way to get said gold, why are you telling everybody about it? Keep your damn mouth shut and just go. The more people that you tell, the more people that are going to come, and the more people that are going to have to share this inevitable gold find if you ever find it. So, but they don't keep their mouth shut. They're in the saloon.
But again, we're dealing with idiots.
Yes, everyone here is an idiot. They're in the local saloon. They're all having beers, and they let Alferd know what they're about ready to do. And Alferd says, "Listen, I want to come too."
Well,
Alferd, yeah, he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any supplies. He's just him being him. And so the group is like, "Yeah,
who needs money or supplies for a trip like this?"
Yeah, we'll pass on this. I don't know what you have to offer. And that's when Alferd says, "No, you don't understand. I am the wilderness guide. Don't ask anybody around here, but trust me when I say that I am the wilderness guide. I have been to Breckenridge, Colorado, like many times. I know the paths inside and out, and I know a couple of shortcuts. We'll get there, Johnny. We're gonna get there in no time."
Well, that's beautiful. And it's not like this guy's just gonna lie to people to go and with them and get their riches. Like people wouldn't do that. So of course he's being truthful.
We don't lie. This is the time of honor, Johnny. Nobody lies about what they're doing. The members of the original party that did wind up surviving this whole fiasco said that he vastly overemphasized his qualifications. You think?
You don't say. Self-proclaimed, and he was exaggerating his skills.
Now they should have known right off the bat that something was amiss, because for a self-reported great guide, he had no real supplies. He only carried a Colt revolver, which would have likely either been a model 1860 cap and ball from the Civil War, or it could have been the model 1871 Colt open top. And I'm going to
Well-
go ahead and say it was probably more like just his cap and ball that he had from when he was in the cavalry and just happened to still have it, as opposed to something a little bit nicer like this. Because this is
But
18.
here's what you don't understand. When you are an expert wilderness guide, like he's self-proclaimed to be, you don't need supplies, Tom. The
I-
earth provides the supplies you need. You just
I
need
guess
a
no
handgun
hunting.
in case of a bear.
No hunting rifle, no knife. I mean, the two first things you're ever going to have, like out in the wild. This isn't modern times, Johnny. This is
Right.
the 1870s.
Yeah.
So in the 1870s, everybody who is not just a miner, who's actually living off the land, whether that's a cattle rustler, cowboy, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, if you're going from town to town, you're going to have a prized possession. That prized possession is going to be a rifle.
Yeah.
Or a shotgun. You're going to have some kind of long gun because you need it for everything. It is a necessary tool, and this comes in important later. So the fact that this guy is a self-proclaimed guide and doesn't have a rifle, doesn't have a knife, this should have. Here's your sign.
But no red flags were raised among this group. They're like, you know what? He says he can get us there faster, though, and there is that gold. And we've been telling lots of people, and they're all going to try to get it first.
So we better get there quick. Apparently, according to the original group, he was an asshole, fought with everybody all the time, ate more than his fair share of rations, and they called him a whining fraud. And his constant seizures, slowed everybody down and pissed them off too. So
why did they let him keep going?
Why didn't
with
they just
him?
leave him after a seizure? Be like,
they're
all right,
dude. What
deuces."
this guy? Yeah, the second or third time he seizes out, it's all right. I'm done with this Joker.
Shock, Johnny. They become lost on the Mormon Trail because you fucking left in November. It's snowing and you got lost. Like the best guides will get lost.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, he put down all of these markers so that he could find the trails and everything. He memorized all of them. What's all this shit all over him? What's going on?
He sure did. On January 21st, 1874, Johnny, the party met a friendly camp of Indians, luckily led by Chief Ore, and this camp was known as the White Man's Friend. And shockingly, these are Ute Indians that are friendly to the white man, and the name of the camp is true. It's not like a trap. It is a white man's friendly camp. So Chief Ore,
I bet they
allows
regret that.
Probably
long term,
longer down the road. Yeah. Chief Ore lets the people in. He says, "Listen, not the time to be traveling right now. No Ute in their right mind would be traveling right now. Stay in this camp till spring. We will feed you. We will give you some huts to live in. Have one of our women or two. Hey, just kick your feet up, enjoy yourself."
I mean, that sounds to me like a pretty good deal when you get lost. It's like it's finding an oasis in the desert, basically.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't stay there. But damn it, Johnny, Breckenridge was Breckenridge was being descended upon by miners, and we've got to get there first. We have to get there first. So the group sits down in early February, and they have a meeting, and they decide who's staying, who's going, what's going on. Well, fuck it, Johnny. 11 of these men, including Alferd, said, we're going to make it. We'll get to Breckenridge, no problem.
So this is out of the so 11
out of 20 men,
wanted.
21 men, 11,
21.
so basically
So
half.
and
said,
the other 10 are like, we might take you up on this offer of just chilling here with these.
Yeah,
nice
the other
folks.
10 were like, we're good. We'll stay. It's cozy.
Those
Pocahontas
are-
is here. She's hanging out. She's pretty hot.
So those are the slightly more intelligent, slightly less desperate members of the party.
Very much so. Their plan was that they would go to the nearest white man encampment, which was Los Pinos Indian Agency, and then on to Breckenridge from there. Chief Ore heard about this, and he said, listen, guys, really shouldn't do this. Really shouldn't be leaving right now.
I mean,
this is our snowiest time of the. It's February, our snowiest time of the year.
I know that, like,
Don't leave.
Yeah, I know in the past we didn't really take much stock in what the natives had to say and what they were their opinion, or they didn't matter at all.
Johnny,
yeah, it seems to me when you're dealing with matters of wilderness and finding your way around and trails and everything, maybe the people who have been here for many, many, many generations are the ones you want to listen to.
Yeah, probably. Especially over a guy who you've already been traveling with for the last couple of months and know he's an asshole.
And also has gotten you lost And the only reason you found these nice people who are telling you not to do the thing you want to do is because this asshole got you lost and had no idea where he was going.
Yep. Chief Ore said, listen, if you are going to go, please, dear God, stick by the Gunnison River and don't go into the mountains. Just stay on the creek, stay on the river's banks. You can't get lost that way. You'll have access to water.
Always follow the rivers.
Follow the river. Well, Johnny, 11 of the 11 men, 5 men, including Alferd, were like, no, we're going to the mountains.
So their party is just getting smaller and smaller.
Pretty much. The riverbank crew would barely make it to the government cattle camp near Gunnison, Colorado, by luck, and they would survive, all of those members, but they were near starving when they did arrive. And so you might be sitting there thinking, what happened to our friend Alferd?
Yeah, why'd everybody, everybody went out into the mountains.
Yeah, right.
Is this like a Chilean soccer team scenario? Or
it could be.
What are we
it
getting
could
into?
be. On April 16th, 1874, Alferd would emerge from the woods alone, stumbling into Los Pinos Indian Agency. So they left in February, and on April 16th, his happy ass toddles into Los Pinos. Okay, he had rags strapped to his feet. So where did his shoe cobblering days go? Shoes are
come
gone.
on, dude. Wait, you lost, and presumably he had 5 other pairs of shoes to take.
Right?
Along his way.
And he flung open the door to the mess hall and he demanded food and shelter. He carried with him a rifle, a knife, a coffee pot, and a satchel.
Hey, that sounds like a wilderness expert right there.
Where'd he get the rifle, Johnny?
Well,
and the knife? Because he didn't have either of those.
As a self-proclaimed expert, you just sort of get these things sometimes.
I
said, nature provides. He just found it on the trail.
Nature does provide. The men gave him food, and he promptly threw the food up because he claimed, oh, my digestion is altered because I'm near starved.
Is that what it is?
His digestion is altered. Wink! After a few shots of whiskey, he told the tale of Johnny how he survived. He said that he was hired by 5 men to get them to Breckenridge.
5 men? Okay.
Okay. The story's a little odd from what we know already, right? But he
to be fair, there were only 5 that continued to follow him.
Yes, that's true. He became snowblind, he said, and he felt he was a hindrance to his men because of his seizures, and he couldn't see anything because he was snowblind. So he told them, go on without me.
Oh.
And this is when a member of the group, Israel Swan, gave him his Winchester. This is not a Winchester 66, but he gave him his Winchester 1866.
His prized possession.
His prized possession. That gun, from what I could find, was around $50 new at the time, which is equivalent to basically $1,000+ today.
So not
something somebody's going to just give you, and when
especially if they're giving it to him to presumably leave him for dead.
Yeah. And then,
here, take this gun so that the first animal that comes and attacks you doesn't kill you. You die from the cold instead. Like what?
Yeah, and they're going to need that because it's cold and they're going to need to hunt too, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. We've already got a little bit of a question mark there. He said he made his way blindly through the forest and he survived off of roots and rosebuds. And the men looked at him and goes, listen, buddy, we've seen people who are starving before. We are right outside the mountains.
Yeah.
Idiots try this crap every winter, and they come through damn near starved to death. Your face is pretty full. Your ribs aren't showing.
Yeah, you look like you've been eating all right.
You don't exactly look like you have been eating roots for the last month.
Yeah.
He claimed he was broke, and he sold his said Winchester for $10, or the equivalent of $226 today, which is nothing for a Winchester. Like he sold the gun for.
So nothing. This is getting on Craigslist and finding like a car that has like 20,000 miles on it. It's in great condition and everything, but you're getting it for like $800. Yep. It's clearly stolen.
Yep. He stayed in the camp for 10 days, and then he said, you know what, guys? I want to go home to Pennsylvania. Why the hurry, buddy? Why do you want to get going to Pennsylvania all of a
Well,
sudden?
I mean, 10 days though.
Well,
That's a week and a half.
yeah, all right, fine, whatever. So he does. He leaves the camp, and he arrives at a city, Saguachu. It's
Nailed it.
Saguache. If you haven't learned this from me yet, I can barely read because I have a Hanover education, and they taught us how to read good.
I think it was a
In any
public school that
case,
taught you how to read, Tommy.
huh?
Hanover assumed you knew how by the time you got
Yeah,
there.
fair.
You should,
Yeah,
you
fair
should
point.
blame your public schools.
Fair point. That's true. Fair point. Um, he went to the local saloon, and the owner claimed that when he was at the saloon, he spent $100, which is nearly $2,260 today, on women, food, and housing.
Got some
That's
bottle service. All right.
that's weird. He sold the Winchester for $10, and that's all the money he had in his pocket. So where'd the other
Yep.
$90 come from? To make matters worse, the saloon owner said that Alferd even offered to loan him $300 because I guess you do that. You like, I'm gonna loan the saloon owner money because of reasons.
I don't know why you would do that. Like
And
an
then the
advanced on your
saloon,
tab, maybe? I don't know.
maybe, I guess. And then the saloon owner said that he had actually spent an additional $78 in the general store next door. Weird. This guy's got a lot of money for some
Dude's
reason.
loaded.
Loaded, right? While at the saloon in a heavy drinking state, he kept giving conflicting stories about the event. So enter a man named Preston Nutter. He was an original member of the party that wound up staying at Ore's camp. So he was one of the smart ones who's like, I'm gonna wait this shit out. He would arrive in Saguacha, and he encountered Alferd at the saloon and said, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing here?
That's
You
some bad
made
luck
it.
for Alfred.
Yeah,
Alfred.
you made it, Alferd. How? Whoa! You were the last one I thought was gonna make it.
Hey, wilderness guide.
Well,
Self-proclaimed.
they spent enough time with it to know that it was bullshit.
that was
But
bullshit.
anyways, Nutter instantly called bullshit on Alferd's story, and he realized that there was no way any reasonable person knows. He goes, "Hey, that rifle was Israel Swan's rifle.
Ooh.
No way that guy was
Uh-oh.
going to give you that rifle."
Yeah.
So, oh, hey, that knife? That was the butcher's knife. What? So what happened
Right.
to these guys?
Who invited the detective? All right.
And
He's trying to enjoy his drinks in the saloon, and some dude comes in and starts poking around in his business.
and where the fuck did all this money come from, Alferd? Like, what's going on, buddy? At the same time this is going on, two additional surviving members of the party wound up that went the river path. They wound up getting into Los Pinos at the Indian Agency. All surviving of the members immediately discredited Alfred's story and said that, there's no way this guy at all could have done the things that he said he did. And one thing that Alferd had left behind was a pipe belonging to a third member of that group. So we now have 3 items that we know weren't his by surviving members, and they're calling into question. There's no way he just was left this shit by the other group. Something's
Right. Yeah, and where is that other group that left him behind, by the way?
because they're nowhere to be found.
Where did they go?
The surviving members convinced the leader that's there, General Adams, at the camp to send a search party for Alferd and have him answer a couple of questions.
We just
Just
want to
a
bring
few-
you in for questioning. That's all.
We just have a few questions.
Everybody's a
Real quick.
suspect right now.
Everybody's a suspect.
You in particular, but
Yes.
everybody.
But everybody is. Yes. General Adams found Alferd and forced him to return to the agency, where he tried to pass off the same story, but nobody was buying it, especially when he was witnessed by, at this point, 5 different people that he had 6 different wallets on him.
That's yeah.
That's a little.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Why on earth would you,
keep the
keep
wallets?
each of the wallets?
Because Alfred's a fucking moron. Lucky, but he's a fucking moron.
I suppose that'll answer it.
General Adams conveyed a council of 5 men to interrogate / try, like it's a mini trial, Alferd, because his shit wasn't making any sense. During this trial interrogation, 2 Ute men arrived with strips of dried human flesh that they referred to white man's meat, and they said that they found these in the mountains with a couple of people.
dried so he was making
Yeah,
people
so
jerky.
he was making
He
people
was,
jerky.
like,
They came back.
hanging it over the campfire. Like,
They came
oh
back with
God.
people jerky. Which, to be fair, if you're gonna eat a human, like I imagine, like
I
that's
guess.
it's easier to pack. I mean, it's like jerky. I mean, it's like
No,
when you go
yeah,
hiking,
right.
jerky's easy to pack. It's
Especially out in the wilderness. And I guess if you're going
it
to eat a human,
keeps.
that's probably one of the most appetizing ways to consume it, I would imagine. I don't know.
I would imagine. I don't know. I have never eaten human, and I have no desire to eat said
Yeah,
human.
I don't think
Even
that's going to be on my list
I
of
mean, I
things to
can't
try.
say what I would do if I was in a situation where it was like survive life and death. But I'm gonna
Oh,
go ahead
I'd
and
be
bet
out of
that
there.
I'd probably be like, all right, just here. I'm gonna eat a bullet. You eat me, or do whatever you want with me
Yeah,
afterwards.
that's the side of things I'm on. I'm not sitting out waiting for people for days or weeks to find me. You're going to find a
Yeah.
body, everybody.
Alfred, at the sight of these Ute men coming in with the human fresh, apparently, reportedly, fainted instantly. When he awoke, he said, and this is documented, quote, "It would not be the first time that people had been obliged to eat each other when they were hungry."
Probably not wrong.
No, he's not wrong because the Donner Party had already happened by this point.
Oh, well, there
So
you go.
so it is public knowledge even recently that this happens.
Yep.
So Alfred, Johnny, he changes his story again. He said that they had enough food for about 14 days.
All right.
After about 20 days, they were lost and starving, so they ate their shoes because leather, you can eat your shoes. Although I'm sure probably not the most appetizing thing in the world, but
well, and it can't be. I mean, you're not getting much out of it. And how hard is it to like break it up and chew it and swallow it?
Maybe you put it in the bucket and make a shoe stew or something. I don't know.
Yeah, soften it up with some water, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. He said after about 20 days, the men began eyeing each other in an unsettling way. So he decided, Johnny, that he was going to go out, hunt for some firewood, and go hunting. A guy with no rifle was going to save the group by going hunting.
So he's going to go without somebody else's rifle, maybe, or just a rifle that he happened to find in nature.
He said when he got back to the camp, he found 4 men around Swan who had been hit in the head with a hatchet. They said it was an accident, and without questioning, the 4 remaining men decided that, well, with the help of the butcher, we're going to chop up the body for some meat.
Okay.
Can't let it go to waste, right, John?
Well, except for the accidental hatchet to the head, which what an unfortunate thing to have happen to somebody. I can see that train of thought. If somebody drops, it's like, okay, well, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yep. This is a story he's telling. So you'd think he would make up a better story, but
well, he's an idiot. We've established.
Yep. He claimed that Swan had several $1,000s on him, and they split it between them. They packed up the meat and left, but 2 days later, damn it, Johnny, they were starving again because they ate all of Mr. Swan.
They went through an entire person and were still hungry 2 days later.
I know, that seems like that should last
I mean,
a little bit.
after rationing and being out they wouldn't have thought to ration more.
Well, we established that he wasn't great at rationing. He liked to eat more than his fair share of food. Well, they said the butcher was the next one to die of natural causes.
Now, see, that's a mistake. Why would you take out the butcher second?
Yeah, right?
I'm starting to believe him now that it's accidental stuff because that's like top tier stupidity.
Obviously, they ate him, did the same thing, packed up the meat, walked. A couple days later, out of meat, starving again. He says that's where they got Miller, or that's where he got Miller, the butcher's knife, is from when he died. He said that next, after a couple days of starving, that a member of the group named Noon conspired to kill a member of the group named Humphrey. And he did. So the 2 of them ate him because,
I mean,
why not? I mean,
if Noon's going to do it, the guy's already dead. I mean, what are you going to do? Let it go to waste?
Right? Yeah, I didn't want to kill Humphrey, but since Noon didn't kill me, we're good to go. And so now there's 2, Johnny, and he said that a couple days later, Noon snapped and that he had to kill him, John, regretfully, out of self-defense.
Okay. First of all, how much did these guys weigh that they're going through however many pounds of meat every couple of days, and they're getting 1 fewer person to eat said meat each time?
like even average, it's 100, like let's say a person weighs 150, and let's say 100 of that is processable meat.
Even if that's on the high, even if 50 pounds, if you can
Even
get 50
50
pounds
pounds
of
of
meat,
meat. How are you going through 50 pounds of meat in 2 days?
for crying out loud.
Come on, people. General Adams wound up leaving with a posse of men, including Nutter, the guy who'd met him in Saskatchewan, to try to find these bodies. While they were gone, Alferd tried to kill a guard by stabbing him with a knife that he had concealed. So
not only did he have his other knife, he had a concealed knife too.
Yeah,
And then
not
tried
boding-
to kill the guard.
Yeah, he wasn't successful, and doesn't bode very well for your whole innocence thing. If
The first time you're left alone with somebody, you try to kill them to escape when they go searching for the bodies that you no doubt killed and ate.
Yeah, after General Adams returned unsuccessfully to find those bodies, Alferd had changed the story again. This time he said Old Man Swan died first, and he was eaten by the other 5 persons about 10 days out of camp. We went from 20 days out of camp down to 10, so woo, story's changing. For 5 days afterwards, Humphreys died and was also eaten, again, natural causes, so we're not getting a whole lot of story change there. They said, but he did say this time that he got money from Humphrey, who had $130 on him.
And this is in addition to the thousands of dollars that they divvied up. Man, these guys were walking around
loaded, right? He said he found the pocketbook and took the money. Naturally, you would. I mean, the guy's dead. What else?
I mean, that's fair.
I don't blame him for that. He's dead. What else are you gonna do?
Fair's fair,
right? The others told me. He said the others told me that this was all an accident. That these 2 men died accidentally, so that we ate them.
He ran into my knife 9 times.
9 times. He said that shortly after this, a guy by the name of California shot Swan with Swan's gun, and then he had to kill Bell because, well, everybody's shooting everybody at this point. I got to defend myself. So yep, I covered up the remains and took a large piece along with me, and then traveled 14 days into the agency. And Bell wanted to kill me with his rifle, so I broke his rifle across a tree and kept Swan's rifle. Like, the guy's stories all over.
I mean, none of that makes any sense.
No, not at all. This version had the men surviving 20 days, and the first man allegedly died of exposure, as opposed to the first story where the guy had a hatchet to the head.
I wonder if that's because he realized that they're gonna do a search, and I mean, did the guy actually get a hatchet to his head? Do we know?
We'll get there, Johnny. You're jumping the gun a little bit, buddy. Hang tight.
I'm dying to know, because I assume they're gonna find all these bodies.
Well, Johnny, the bodies are found in August 1874 by John Randolph, who is an illustrator who works for Harper's Ferry Weekly. This is a photographer before that was really a thing for newspapers, just out and about, taking some pictures in the wilderness and happens across 5 dead bodies.
And August, so they've
been there a minute.
Woo.
They've been exposed to the wilderness, so to speak.
I'll bet he found him with his nose first.
Probably a bit ripe, huh?
I bet he found him with his nose first.
I bet.
Although by that time they could have been picked clean. Who knows?
Yeah, they were found at the bottom of Slumgullion Pass. I love these old Western names. Slumgullion, which is now known as Dead Man's Gulch.
Oh,
weird.
I wonder where it got its name.
I wonder. Which is near Lake City, Colorado. General Adams went with a coroner and 20 volunteers. They find all the bodies in one location, with the bodies being flayed open, skulls crushed, and a scene that could only be described as extreme violence.
So he probably crushed their heads when they were sleeping.
His story is not jiving at all anymore. We got
see, here's what happened. We walked for 5 days after eating the first one, and then the second guy started stumbling backwards, and he must have just stumbled backwards until he got to the same spot and then fallen and died. And then that just happened 2 more times.
Well, Johnny, when the search party returned to the jail where Alferd was being kept, Alferd was missing.
Did he made it out this time?
He made it out this time, but I have to explain something. By jail, I mean a log cabin that wasn't a jail, that had no like he wasn't actually put in a jail. He was just put in a cabin. He was told, like, don't leave the town. We
Right.
got some questions for you. But like General Adams explained, there's no proof that a crime up to this point had
Right.
actually been committed, so they couldn't
Yeah.
really detain him in a
Yeah. So
jail. They just
this is that
hung him.
whole, police in the show telling the suspect not to leave the country.
Yes, and they put
Yeah,
him
we
up.
don't
in
have
the
enough
cabin.
to detain you, throw you in jail, and keep you till the trial, but you don't want to go anywhere. Like,
No.
we're gonna have to talk soon.
So he wound up evading authorities for 9 years, Johnny. 9 damn years.
Again, Tommy, back in the day, so easy
So
to be a
easy.
criminal.
So easy. Well, it was. Well, if you could go off and anywhere and change your name, change your identity,
Yeah.
and as long as nobody that knew you found you, you were fine.
Right. And what are the odds of somebody knowing you, finding you? And
Well,
if you
damn it,
just go to
Johnny,
some random place, right?
On March 11th, 1883, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, living under the name John Schwartz, he was caught by chance by a member of the original party, Frenchy Cabazon, who was also one of the ones that stayed back at the Indian camp, like a smart person.
He's got to be like, "What the
And-
hell are you doing in Wisconsin, bud?"
Well, Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Frenchy Cabazon was like, "Hey, you look familiar." Oddly enough, Alfred himself wound up stopping Frenchy, and he asked him for supplies because he didn't recognize him, but Frenchy sure as shit
Right. I
recognized
mean,
him.
I was just
Frenchy had
thinking 9
heard the
years.
rumors.
9
Yeah.
years. I'd be hard pressed to remember somebody's
Remember somebody?
face from like to recognize them after 9 years had passed. And I suppose it depends on how old they were when they went out, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now, 9 years ago, if I see people from college or high school or whatever, and I don't recognize them until they tell me who they are.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm also shit with faces.
There
so,
is that, yeah.
Like, I am the worst with faces.
This Frenchy guy apparently never
Yeah.
forgets a face.
Frenchy guy does not forget a face. So Frenchy went to the local sheriff and said, "Yeah, this guy's totally wanted back in Colorado, so might want to pick him up."
So yeah, he did some things.
He did some stuff involving eating of people. You might want to do something.
Yeah, after murdering them and not after them just falling dead every couple of days by natural causes.
The local sheriff did turn him over to General Adams, and damn it, Johnny, he changed his story for a third time, and this time I actually have his written confession. So bear with me, I'm going to read it to you. This time he says, quote, "I found the red-headed man Bell, who was acting crazy, in the morning sitting near the fire roasting a piece of meat which he had cut off the leg of a German butcher Miller. The latter's body was lying the furthest off from the fire down the stream. His skull was crushed with a hatchet. The other 3 men were lying near the fire. They were cut in the forehead with the hatchet as well. Some had 2 or 3 cuts. I came off with a rod of the fire. When the men saw me, he got up with his hatchet towards me. When I got shot, or when I shot him sideways through the belly, he fell on his face. The hatchet fell forwards. I grabbed it and hit him in the top of the head." So basically, this time he's saying, look, I went out for a rod for the fire, finding some kindling. I came back. This crazy motherfucker had already killed everybody, came at me with a hatchet, so I shot him, and then, he wasn't dead yet, so I took the hatchet from him and on the head a couple of times.
It seems to me like that should be his first story.
That should have been his first story.
Like they would have been like, "Okay, God, that's horrific. I can't believe you survived that. That's amazing."
Yes. Had he said that as his first story, I think people would have been, I don't really believe you, but okay. Like they would have been more inclined to believe that than the bullshit about.
I mean, you beat yourself up a little bit.
And this guy, yeah, right.
You beat yourself up a little bit. You say, "I heard, men were screaming. There was stuff going on, and I saw so and so smashing these people's heads with a hatchet, and so I got to jump on. I got scared. I didn't know what to do. I jumped on him from behind and caught him by surprise, and had to kill him too to protect myself."
One thing that's consistent with the story is somebody somewhere in all of his stories always died with a hatchet. So I think it's safe to assume.
Yeah, he probably
died with
hatcheted everybody
hatchets.
to their head.
I'm sure he did. He then claimed that he was trapped in a storm, so he hunkered down, ate the bodies for survival. And everybody's like, "Well, where the hell is your pistol?" Right? Because everybody knows he had a Colt. Well, I dropped it in the snow, Johnny, and I couldn't find it. Again. Even this guy here, this 1871, was probably one of the cheaper cartridge conversions that you could buy at the time, and it was still damn near $20 new. So you're
you
not
drop something
dropping
like
this
that
in
in the
snow and
snow,
not
you're
finding
searching
it.
in the snow.
Yeah, like, and again, it's big, it's heavy. You know, if you drop it, it's black in the snow. Like, I don't care how deep the snow is.
You can find that.
You can find this.
Because here's the thing about snow. When you drop something in it, it just makes a hole all the way down to approximately where it was. And you just search in that area for a little bit, and then you find it.
Like, how hard, right?
Like, I've dropped my keys in, like, 2 feet of snow, and guess what? I found them.
Right? It's crazy. And they're little keys, not a fucking
Not a big old handgun.
So during his trial, Swan's family wound up testifying, and they said that Swan himself had around $6,000 when he left, which is equivalent to $135,582 a day, so a substantial amount.
Oh, yeah.
Which explains why this guy had a lot of money when he was found. On April 6th, 1883, the trial begins. He was found guilty, shock,
What?
of premeditated murder, and he was sentenced to hang on May 19th, 1883. So these guys in the Wild West do not fuck around with justice. You're convicted, we're going to hang you in a couple of months. A month, you know. But his lawyers were good at what they did. They're good lawyers, which is kind of surprising in this time frame, especially when you're like, I'm sure he did. Well, he did have a lot of money to hire some good attorneys, though. So
think about the type of people that are sitting on that jury, Tommy.
Yeah, they're not the smartest. His lawyers were good, and they found a savings clause from statutes from 1874 that spared him for being tried for murder. Because basically what happens is in Colorado statute, you could not be tried for murder and convicted of murder and sentenced to death if the murder occurred prior to Colorado becoming a state.
Wow.
Colorado didn't become a state until August 1st, 1876, 2 years after the supposed crime.
Do you think the people, when they were like writing those laws, are like, this isn't going to matter. It's never going to affect anybody anyway.
Right?
We're not going to have a situation like
right.
this.
We're not having to worry about this.
We don't have any outstanding murder cases, do we? What? We do?
Right. What? We do? Oh, shit. Well, his conviction was overturned, but he is retried because he's not, just because he can't be tried for capital murder doesn't mean he can't be tried for murder and other crime, but he just can't be put to death for it.
Sure.
So he is tried a second time. This time the trial was even quicker, lasted with less deliberation, and he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 40 years, 8 years per count. Good, fair sentence.
Oh, I guess.
Point here.
8 years for killing and eating somebody. All right.
40, yeah. But
Well,
anyways,
per.
To be fair, this was, to date, at this time, the longest prison sentence that was ever handed down in U.S. history.
Yeah, you know why?
Because usually we just killed them.
Killed people.
Yeah, we usually just killed them.
We
didn't
don't
give
want
you a long
to keep
prison
you
sentence.
alive.
We just killed you. Yeah.
Because guess what? It's expensive to keep people alive.
It is.
Unless you're a
and this isn't the day when we
money.
had a shit ton of appeals and all that cost that goes with it, and it's actually cheaper to keep them alive for their entire life than it is to kill them.
Right.
You know, this is back in the day when the cost of killing them was a 25-cent bullet.
Yeah. Or you take
a free rope that you
had.
reused. Yeah, a free rope that you reused over and over and over again. But damn it, Johnny, when he was defending himself up to the sentencing point, he said, look, I'm okay with you giving me 40 years, but listen, I only killed one guy, and it was out of self-defense. So give me 40 years for the one death. Don't give me 8 years per 5 deaths.
It's just semantics here now.
Semantics. And the judge said, yeah, go fuck yourself. You're going to get convicted of all 5 deaths.
Yeah, that seems
because
fair.
You killed him. But damn it, Johnny, this guy's lucky. He's unlucky in that people keep recognizing him, but he's lucky in that, like, you got lucky that you killed these people before Colorado was state.
Right, yeah.
You know,
yeah. He's got that good timing going on for him.
Damn it, Johnny, he's going to get paroled.
What? Why?
He files he'll file 5 separate appeals while he's in jail. Every time the charges are upheld, including all the way up to the Colorado Supreme Court on June 19th, 1899. He said, look, no, you did it.
Yeah.
Deal with it. However, on February 8th, 1901, after serving 18 years, he will be paroled. And largely this is because of as a reporter from the Denver Post named Polly Pry, who just fell in love with his story and thought that he was railroaded and thought, look, happenstance, he just happened to be starving. She bought into the whole bullshit story that he had.
Well, yeah, because she didn't hear the previous 10.
The previous 10 stories, right? And so she portrays him as a common man and gets the public to believe that this was just an unwinnable situation, wrong place, wrong time, and convinced the public that he was a victim of circumstance and sensationalism in the newspaper because he happened to eat a couple of people.
Now, you're not going to tell me that after he gets parole, he goes out and eats more people, are you?
No, he doesn't do that.
Oh, thank goodness.
No. After much public outcry, Governor Charles Thomas, who was completely adamant this guy was batshit crazy and guilty, wound up paroling him as his last act in office. I don't know why, because why the fuck would you do that if you're on your way out? Anyways, he does it.
It's like some power thing that everybody does on their way out. They're like,
they parole some
one
random guy
last
the public
little
wants
thing
to
show that I can do what I want.
But I say parole and not pardoned. He is still 100% guilty of killing these 8 men.
Right.
He just gets 18 years as opposed to the 40 years that he was supposed to get, which in modern criminal stuff, that's about right. Like you get about 50% of the time that you actually serve, assuming you don't eat people in prison. Alferd would die shortly thereafter on April 23rd, 1907, at the age of 65 in Deer Creek, Colorado, cause of death, dementia, and a stroke. So, stroke brothers. And he also reported that at the time of his death, he was a vegetarian, which, I mean, I guess I don't blame him if he was a vegetarian.
He's tried all the meat, decided he doesn't eat it. And...
Yeah, but this isn't where the story ends, Johnny. This is where it gets stupid and weird more than it already was.
But he died.
For some reason, on July 17th, 1989, 115 years after all this shit happened,
1989.
115 years later, there is a professor named James E. Starrs, who's a professor of law, who decides that he wants to prove that, yes, in fact, Alferd did kill these people. Because at this point, there was some speculation, did he actually kill them, or was the story legit where it was self-defense, that kind of bullshit.
Why do people care?
I don't know, because like he never denied not eating the people. So the cannibalism, that would he did that.
He ate them. Yeah,
it's just whether he killed them or it was self-defense. This professor of law concludes that yes, in fact, he did kill him.
Oh, how about that? So this professor of law decided to set out and find if 115 years ago somebody did a thing. And turns out he happened to find out that they did, in fact, do that thing that he set out to prove they did.
Well, Johnny, what he does is he goes out and tries to find the original 5 men's bodies, exhume them, and look at their corpses and see what the evidence of the corpses have to suffice, right? He finds these 5 bodies, and this is where it's really odd and weird as shit, at the bottom of a residential driveway owned by a local surgeon, and they were only 1 foot below the surface. So they are found 1 foot below this driveway. You know, the people who paved that driveway had to have found those bodies and been like, there you go.
Yeah, you dig it out, a driveway. Like, what on earth?
So they
only had to dig out 10 inches for the concrete.
Maybe it was a dirt driveway. I don't know. But 1 foot below the dirt at the base of a driveway.
I mean, he had to feel relieved on that. Like, you don't have to dig much.
No,
makes it easier.
The 5 bodies were found. Their skulls were all found to have been crushed and hit with a hatchet.
Yes.
And so the belief, like the predominant believed accepted story is that, like you said before, Johnny, he smashed them in the head with a hatchet in their sleep.
Yeah.
And then just wound up.
I mean, it doesn't.
That's the story that makes the most sense.
It doesn't take digging up a bunch of bodies and looking at their crushed skulls when everybody said their skulls are crushed and it was with a hatchet. And he just said, oh, yeah, see, they were definitely crushed with a hatchet. So he did it.
Congratulations.
Like, how is that any different than his last story? You can't prove that whatever. But he decided that definitively he killed them and ate them.
So in this particular story, in this particular Western thing, it was pretty violent. You got a guy who was half starving and offed 5 people with a hatchet in their sleep.
Yeah.
Then flayed them ate them, got fat off them, stumbled into town in the spring and said, "Hey,
Well, and I guess it
I
makes
don't
a
know what
little
happened to those guys."
yeah, it makes a little more sense to me how the Wild West could get so kind of blown up and exaggerated when you do have a bunch of people in their mining towns and whatever just staying in, and then all of these people like our cannibal friend going around traveling from city to city, and they're all sharing their tall tales and embellishing their stories of grandeur or whatever else. So I guess that makes sense
I've got
why
plenty of
it
more
became what
stories
it
for you.
is.
Yeah, I got plenty of more stories too that we'll get down at a later date. But for today, this is our first Wild West story. Starts off with a little bit of cannibalism for everybody at home.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about the Germans fighting Nazis.